I'm Randy Ball, and I fly jets upside down. Well, there's nothing like looking up through the canopy and seeing the ground. These jets ever break? Did these jets ever break? Occasionally, yes, they do break. Usually you can't find a big mechanic, so I'm elected. And Aaron May's elected, sometimes at an air show. All the stuff that goes on air shows that you just never see. It's nothing like flying close to the ground in front of the crowd. As a kid, I was just mesmerized by the magic in the sky, just trying to give some of it back.
What'd you do with that little flashlight?
I gave it to you.
Airshow performer Randy Ball and his team of volunteers have just 3 more weekends to get 1611 ready for its first air show of the season.
This really is a MiG factory here. We're fixing to do a gear swing where we raise the gear with a hydraulic mule and then check equipment for gear doors at 600 miles an hour. At an air show, it's really important that the gear doors are flush. Nothing's hanging down in the breeze. We just got through installing the new NiCad battery back from being refurbished. So what we'll do now is we'll hook up the battery, do the gear swing in here, which is done with a outside hydraulic mule. It'll get loud. And then once that's done, we'll take the airplane off its jacks. It'll go outside and be run for the first time and leak checked again with make sure everything's good. Then we'll restack the hangar, which is what we call moving airplanes into different positions. And the tail that you see over behind me will be reattached, which is about another 2 days worth of work. Yes, sir, mate.
What'd you do with that little flashlight?
I gave it to you. No, that wasn't it. Dang, I thought that was the right answer. Slowly, incrementally bring it up on power to about 50% power, repeating the same test over and over and over until we're happy at that point. If that's all good, we'll shut the airplane down, put it back in the hangar, and start the reassembly process for the tail. Now the airplane goes back up on jacks, gets leveled, make sure we haven't missed anything inside the tail, and it's good to go, and we'll start. Finish the patch there. You should see, once that's removed, you should see the structure up over there. Uses a titanium ring spar that goes all the way around here and back down under here and back up and then up the vertical tail. Amazing amount of structure in that thing. There. I think just maybe 2 screws. But now it's time to get 2 screws I need to put in here.
No.
They won't go?
No.
Never mind. And we're going to need to put that on.
Oh, the hose. Yeah, I forgot the other one.
That's a big deal. All that long, there'll be more fuel in the tail than you want to mess with. Just pulls off. There you go.
Erin Kelly is the only female crew chief of a jet aerobatic team on the airshow circuit in North America. She's become a highly visible role model for young women interested in aviation.
I absolutely hope that it does encourage more young women to pursue what they enjoy. When I joined the Navy, I went into the avionics field. That's where most of the girls went, avionics and electrician. But each shop had 1 or 2 females. Now you look around, there's a lot more than that, but it is still definitely a growing community. How far are you, Sammy? You off the floor?
Yeah.
All right.
Another weekend or 2 and we'll be ready to go fly upside down.
Ball can be found flying upside down at air shows almost every weekend starting at the end of February. In his jet, a MiG-17F, and John's jet, a MiG-17PF.
The purpose of the plane was to protect Soviet airspace around the clock. And that's why the radar nose is on here.
The P designation, a tracking radar on the bottom and a search radar on top. The PF was the first all-weather interceptor. The F refers to the jet's engine. The MiG-17 was the first Soviet fighter with an afterburner.
People at the air show love it.
So did the judges at Oshkosh, the largest air show in the country. And the editors of Smithsonian Air and Space.
All an afterburner is doing is we're lighting a fire, building a really big fire behind the engine, between the engine and the opening here in the tailpipe. Because we're building a big fire there, the pressure goes way up. And so in order for that to not rip apart the tail of the airplane, this has to open up. Not an afterburner though, having this opening would reduce the velocity of the gases because there'd be a bigger opening. So you want the opening to be tighter so that you increase the velocity of the air. Make sense? Cool. That's how an afterburner works. That and it goes really fast.
In New York, John Blanchett readies his award-winning jet Red 620 for the coming air show season.
Get him tight. Get him coming out at 600 miles an hour.
Blanchett relies on Kevin Robbins, an experienced aviation technician, to help him with 620, the jet that John Blanchett rescued from a Polish scrapyard, restored at his own expense, and turned into an air show star.
This whole plane is just nothing but a bunch of pieces. So every time you have to make a piece or buy a piece or whatever, you just take care of that problem right at that spot and you move on. These trailing edges right here were replaced. But this is a very complicated piece. A friend of mine that was working with me duplicated them on a little mill in his basement, 6 inches at a time. And has this inset here, fancy end down here. We had to make new ones of these and put them in. Big job.
Blanchett is familiar with big jobs. As a U.S. naval officer assigned to the ship repair facility in Sasebo, Japan in 1960, he was a vital liaison between the military and civilian workers. It was the same year that Red 620 rolled off the assembly line in Poland.
I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, many, many years ago. In fact, I graduated back in 1956.
Blanchett landed a job at General Motors as an engineer. He would stay with the company for 34 years.
I never restored a plane, restored cars. But cars, I got a little bored with cars. I said to the fellow at the museum I said, could I bring one here? And he says, of course, if it's a warbird, you can bring it here. We'll give you a corner of the hangar to work in at that time. Of course, that wasn't the best of conditions either. That wasn't heated very well. My wife helped me, and we had a big light she put down underneath her chair, so heat from the light bulb would warm her from the bottom up. That's how we get through the winters. I had a good supplier of parts, a friend of mine in Phoenix, Arizona.
Blanchett has yet to reveal the cost of his meticulous restoration.
I never felt the loss because it was just a few bucks. Every few days, a few bucks. It wasn't any large sum of money. When you start putting Jet A in it, at $2,000 and $3,000 every time you fill the tank, those are the big numbers would start to happen. And then you buy insurance, and then you buy this and you buy that. But the real expense is in the flying of it.
If they'll close the road for a couple hours and have people drive around.
Sure.
Back in Texas, Ball helps to plan a 4th of July weekend air show to benefit Texas veterans.
If they'll close the road for a couple hours and have people drive around.
Sure. I don't know why that would. That's not a basic road.
Safety is a priority.
Fly this path, I'm going to come in more acute.
Yeah.
So that I cross it, roll to a 90, and then pull around through the box. So you don't want them too far apart, but this is going to be a no-fly zone.
Right.
And you're going to have to label that on your map as a no-fly zone.
Okay.
Just because the box is here doesn't mean these people won't get a flyby. So if you got a person here, I'm going to fly through. I'm still going to go right past them. It's just the aerobatic part that I have to be inside this box.
Ball books as many as 26 air shows a year. The logistics of reaching the shows can often be quite challenging.
The last time we were at Kingsville, Texas, at the Naval Air Station where she used to work. I performed there and then flew to Louisiana for fuel, western Florida for fuel, and then landed at Titusville out there at Cape Canaveral about sundown. So we performed, launched the hung drop tanks, launched the aircraft during the show before the Blues flew, the last team to fly, and I made 2 fuel stops and flew, 900,000 nautical miles. Got the airplane to the Valiant Air Command Air Museum in their hangar about just about sundown, changed an airline uniform, and caught a ride to Orlando to fly to Washington, D.C. to go work. So I spent the night in Washington, D.C., and then went back to work flying airliners all week. And then Thursday, caught a flight back to Florida, and then airline through Orlando, and we did it again the next weekend.
Ball thrives on the intricate and demanding schedule. 2020 will mark his 30th year as an air show performer. There's a long list of items to be serviced on 1611 by Ball and his team before the jet flies.
The tail that you see over behind me will be reattached, which is about another 2 days worth of work.
You're gonna crack it.
What?
You're gonna crack it.